It's been years since the Moloch apocalypse. As the days turn to weeks and the weeks to months, it's becoming more and more difficult to survive. Food is becoming more scarce. All I could find is this light mayonnaise and this couscous that I had to eat from the box. It's so dry. Shawn and I had been holed up in an abandoned house on the outskirts of the ruined city that once was Brisbane. The longer I stay, the harder it is to tolerate Shawn's madness.
Hey, if you want to come out of the backyard, I'm going to make a coffee and a sandwich, yeah?
He eats so much. The question becomes, how far am I willing to go to survive? I'm sure he doesn't suspect a thing. If I cooked him slowly, not only would there be more food for me, there'd be more food.
Dude, I can hear your internal monologue.
Welcome to Smashing Plastic, a video series about awesome board games. My name's Richard and this guy is Shawn. Shut up. Today we're continuing on with our Neuroshima month.
That's right, we're looking at games set in the Neuroshima universe by Portal Games. This week's going to be 51st State, New Era, and the expansion Ruins, all of which designed by Ignacy Trzewiczek.
Now, these games tell a story of a bunch of factions that are trying to gain dominance over a post-apocalyptic world.
That's right, the gameplay is essentially a resource management game where you're going to be getting resources to build locations, those locations give you more resources, and on she goes.
And what those resources do eventually accumulate into victory points, and those victory points represent your domination over the other factions. And once you reach 33, that is victory, or that's when you count it up and see who's out in front, and that's when you win.
So what you have is two separate games, 51st State and New Era. You combine them both individually, or you can combine them together to make one giant game. What's changed is not a lot. They cleaned up some rules for this implementation of it, and they've added a couple of different things. For instance, there's 4 factions you can play as in the game: the Appalachian Federation, Fortress New York, the Mutants Union, or the Merchants Guild. In New Era, they've tidied it up, made the cards look a lot cleaner, and they've also added the hedge money, so you can get 5 players together. And really the story it tells is that your faction gets a different type of resource, and that resource is going to drive your opening strategies. And you're going to do things like look for abandoned petrol stations or old office blocks, or even people that you find out in the wasteland like oil traders, that you're going to try to get those resources, milk them to your advantage, and build that dominance that Richard was talking about before.
The components you receive in this game are resources, a stack of victory tokens, and a stack of action tokens. But where the magic happens in this game are the cards. So if you have a look here, imagine you're in the apocalypse and you found yourself a gas station. There's a couple of things you could do. You could actually destroy it and burn it to the ground and take everything that's there, so that would be a conquest and you receive those spoils at the top. Or you could make an agreement with the guy that is there and have some sort of arrangement where you could pick up the occasional bit of petrol, or you could incorporate it into your area of domination in the game, maybe take out the owner altogether.
So there's 3 phases to the game. The first one's called the lookout phase, which is essentially a draft. What you do is you deal out 5 cards, and the first player, he's going to grab one off the stack, second player is going to grab one, and you're going to replace that. And they keep going until everyone's got 1 card, and there's 3 cards left. First player's going to get 1, and then you're going to keep replacing until everybody's got 2 cards. You throw away the last card, and then each player gets a blind draw off the top. So you kind of get a chance to pick some stuff, and you kind of get stuck with what you got. Now, the second phase is the resource phase. Come down here to my New York stack here. You see, I've made a deal with these guys, so they're going to get me a worker. I've got these guys incorporated into my squad, so they're going to get me a part. And these guys, this old school here is going to get me another worker. And then New York's, they've got lots of good parts. So these are going to be my starting resources, plus 3 workers from New York. That's what I have to try to get these new resources I build into my hand to work for me. Which comes to the action phase. I'm going to spend these resources to do actions. There's 12 actions in the game, which is a lot, and it's confusing, and we won't go into that much detail. But we will cover the important ones.
So the first thing I need to understand is the distance these locations are from my base. For example, the school is distance 1, the scrapyard is distance 2, and the trade convoy is distance 3. Now, in order to interact with those locations, I need to spend resources. For example, I'm going to spend 2 fuel, and that's going to give me a cooperation token. Now, what I can do with that cooperation token is cooperate with the scrapyard, and also the school, but not the trade convoy, because those are distance 3 away. So that is good. That's going to come into my cooperate pile here, and at the beginning of my turn, that's going to give me a scrap resource. Now, what else can I do? I can incorporate into my base. So I'm going to spend my scrap token, and that's going to give me an incorporate token. I'm going to spend that on my school, and that's going to become part of my base. And then finally, what I have left is gun tokens. Okay, so I'm going to spend gun tokens, and that is going to give me a conquest token. Now what I'm going to do with that is wait till my next turn, spend another gun token and get another conquest token, and that's going to allow me to take out this trade convoy, and then I'm going to slide that under here. And then what can happen is At the end of my turn, I can discard that card and receive those spoils.
So one thing that was introduced with New Era was player interaction, where you can actually use those gun tokens to attack your opponent's base, and potentially even set up trades with them. And here's how that works. You see, here's the school from the 51st state, but here's the school from New Era. And New Era's got this little distance 3 thing on there, and there's distance 5, distance 4, whatever. But what this means is I can attack from 3 distance away, or I can make trade from 3 distance away. Now, why this is good is because that allows me to get spoils off of my opponent's efforts they put forward. If I attack this school, I'm going to get the 3 workers. But my opponent, he's also going to get a benefit. He's going to get the 1 worker off the bottom. So although I'm scrapping it, I'm essentially giving him a resource as well as collecting some myself. But it goes deeper than that. You can rebuild these things in 51st State. So if he rebuilds this school, he's going to get another victory point. So I've got a very careful decision to make. Are those 3 workers worth it? He's going to get 1 worker and potentially a victory point for the effort. So do I really need those resources? Am I maximizing the efficiency by attacking that school?
So what do we think of New Era and 51st State? The pros and cons are?
Look, pro number 1 has got to be this game feels absolutely thematic. You feel like you're battling it out over, ruined gas stations and scrap traders and weapons depots. I mean, you feel like it's this post-apocalyptic toilet you're fighting over.
For me, it's the light switch moment, because this is quite a complex game, but after a while, once you've played it, there's this click, everything comes to light and meshes together, and it all makes perfect sense.
Me, I think that the third pro has got to be that there's so much depth in this for a card game. This 3-in-1 card mechanic, I mean, there's so much going on. It feels like you're really busy because you are.
And cons. So for me, initially it's the learning curve, and we've witnessed this with some of our gaming friends as we get this on the table and the look of complete confusion on their face when we first kick it off.
Yeah, and look, when you're playing New Era, there's a closing borders rule which says that I'm finished playing my actions, so I'm done, which means you're immune from attacking. I understand why it happens, but it's sort of weird.
Yeah, it doesn't lend to the theme too much.
Yeah.
And finally, it is the downtime when you're waiting for your turn. So sometimes people get a bit of a run of the actions that they can perform, and you're sitting around waiting for that to finish up.
If you close your borders too early, you can be a while before you get another chance to open them again.
So thanks for watching Smashing Plastic.
Well, hang on. First thing we have to say is that if you're going to buy one or the other, I mean, you can mash them together, but really the money shot is in New Era, not in 51st State. And we know that Ignacy, Trebicek, and Portal Games have re-implemented these rules. Now, it's not a reskin. It's not like the difference between these 2 games. They've actually tweaked the rules quite a bit, cleaned them up, made the faction differences a lot differently, and that game is called Imperial Settlers, and we haven't played it yet, but I'm kind of excited to because of how much I like this game. Now, back to the closing. So, thanks for watching Smashing Plastic.
Go away from me. I'm out.
If you want to capture us on the internet, I'm at Smashing Plastic on Twitter.
I'm at Axe Kicking Kelly on Twitter.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Please share. Get involved, yo!
Give us the thumbs in the comments. Love you, work.
Thank you very much. See ya.